Hello, how is everyone? I can't hear you. How is everyone? You're good? It's 10:30. Okay. Good to see you. You know, I had a dream when I was setting up my company that is easy to remember because it's written on my head, that will be actually a research company based in Poland. There are not so many research companies done in Poland. We are great at analytical minds, great engineers here. There are lots of body leasing, team extension companies. But I had this dream when buying Escola 5 years ago to actually do research. And thanks to AI, this dream is coming true. So this presentation will be basically presentation of the case studies that we don't have NDA on. So you'll see what actually medium-sized, 100 people company can do over last 3 years in the area of AI. And we are not an AI native, so we are not 11 Labs or a company that actually produces a software dedicated that needs extra rounds of investment. So I just go through case studies that we do with our clients. But let's start with a little bit of visualization at this moment. You guys are going on the Formula 1 race, and the question is it possible to take 15 cars? You're going on the race. Is it possible to take 15 cars? You know, they're all super fast. All the drivers are super skilled. And, well, it is. Only when it's really bad weather. Only when it's rain, you know, there is big smoke of the vapor coming from tires. And that's actually the quote of one of the best racers. And I think this is the time, the smoke of AI, the two wars, we have one in Ukraine, another one in Israel, you know, the economic downturn, high interest rates that stop startup investment. That is the time when you actually, your company can overtake other companies. Because it is not a great time, it is rain. We had a great introduction of what AI is. So just for me, AI is quite a broad term that encompasses both machine learning and language processing, computer vision, and robotics, which is the most advanced. And for me, it is a long way before we achieve anything that Elon Musk is talking about. So as you see on the next slide, we're actually in the AI era of text. What was the first big thing that everyone have heard in AI? A chat. So that was the beginning of internet. Internet 2.0 maybe. A text era. So you input text and then you get more text. No magic, large language model. And if you think about audio, that you simulate a voice, of course it's much harder to do, but it's still usually based on text. To do what you have a second last to take from audio to text, it is also possible. But to create actually a video, text to video thing, extremely difficult. Of course, we are all excited when you see a video made from a prompt. But guys, have you really seen these videos? Like, would you go for a cinema and paid $10 to see a video generated entirely by AI? No way. We are really many years from there. And you can see why we are in the text era, that the autonomous driving of cars that seemed to be quite not far away, maybe 10 years ago, when Tesla was building its momentum, we're still not nearly there. I'm happy to see that Tesla is still selling its promised full autonomous driving for 40,000, Polish zloty, $10,000, but we are still far away. Why? Because there are nuances that only human mind can do. And I'll be talking about this nuance is emotion. This nuance is also cognition. You know what's the biggest difference between us and your mobile phones have millions of transistors. And they have cameras, but they don't have eyes. Okay, they have microphones, but they don't have ears. And our brains is also millions, billions of transistors, but they're all integrated pretty good with our senses. And that makes us self-conscious that machines are not. Even if we feel like ChatGPT is kind of empathizing with us, this is not true, entirely not true. So what I'm trying to indicate here, that we are still really in the text-based era. Maybe in 10, maybe in 15 years, we'll be able to actually go from actually interacting with the machine on the completely different level. But even if you think about computer, what is computer? It's the vision of the television, and then the keyboard is actually, the typing machine. And even a mobile phone is a typing machine on a screen, and then a screen. Nothing new. So we are in the text era. That's what I'm trying to say. And I want you to take a look. Is it possible? That my prediction is that the next years, like this year was about ChatGPT, the next years will be about Copilots. And please be careful what is happening with Microsoft PowerPoint Copilots, Microsoft Office Copilots, and the same in Google. I think it will be the biggest breakthrough, because now we have lots of new startups, half of them are shown here, but actually integration of these machine models into big solutions will be the next big thing. Okay, so let's see what we've actually done over last years. With a budget and also the success rate that I tried to assess whether it was successful or not. So starting with the first one, I will go into more details with them. But I will telling you about this project, I will tell you what was the question we were trying to tackle. So for the first game, the mobile game that we were trying to personalize, it was the notion that every one of us learns differently. So some of us have good memories about a teacher that was really rough and was saying, you cannot do it, you will fail on it. And this way, people are motivated. Some of them, other people, need to be motivated. You can do it. You're actually a great student. Some of us like to learn in the morning. Some of us is better in the evening. And also, different gamification methods work on us. It's been used partly by Duolingo. Who of you uses or knows Duolingo? Very good. But you know that learning languages is not so very trendy because machines will do it for us, right? I do Duolingo as well. It's fun. But they use it only for content creation for now, okay? But we wanted to actually make it super personal. So we created this game that looks like a cyberpunk environment, which is not easy task by itself. And we created all different sets of teachers that would be personal to your needs. Okay, but let's be honest. After spending over 2 million euros, we completely failed. There is no correlation either how much we trained the machine to show that Father Diliach was better for you and Anne, a very nice and subtle teacher, was better for you, or in the morning you learn better than in the evening. There was no correlation with any results. Probably there is something else. So of course we applied for another grant that this time we are going to make people actually speak to the phone, like normal, regular discussion. Like, can you actually, like you speak with Alexa, but it will help you with some notions, and you play this game actually using entirely your voice, which is a natural way of us interacting with machines. Well, it was even worse. To call it a failure was very nice. It was complete failure. It's not easy, actually, for us to naturally speak the machines and learn language. Of course, we can, if we come back here, we can easily translate text into audio and back. That's why we translate things. But to make machines truly comprehend what we mean, what we intend to do, is a thing that is, I think, at least a decade in front of us. You will check my assumption later. There was a third project, it's still ongoing, but it seems to be somehow successful, is to detect autism in young kids. Autism is a syndrome, a spectrum that is now suffered by around 10% of kids. And, sorry, I will come to that later. So we created we detected that there is correlation between kids using this program, quite popular in Poland, having over 100,000 users, with educational music called pOMelody, that some teachers said, we see correlations that our kids with autism spectrum, they are somehow playing with this music. So basically, it was well explained by a previous speaker that training machines is about set of data. So you need two sets of data. Kids with autism spectrum, which is harder to find, that are already, we know they are tested and with a psychiatrist, and we have this confirmed, and then kids without autism spectrum. And then by lots of iterations, we train the machine to detect by how they react to different senses, especially to music, reading their gestures, reading their mimics, whether they have actually an autism spectrum. And I can tell you a funny anecdote for this, that we first applied for this research grant saying that we will detect autism spectrum and we get 0 points. And then we applied for the research grant saying that we will help to diagnose the children so they actually go to be diagnosed by a professional, and then we get maximum amount of points. So it's very important to remember that machines will never do final assumptions. We have only suggestions. You know probably the rule of 80 and 20, that 80% of work usually requires 20% of time, and vice versa. The last 20% is hard to achieve. So for me, all the AI tools are actually using this, rule that ChatGPT gives us 80% of the work done, but actually to do the remaining 20% takes lots of time. Okay? And just I wanted to show you how the personalization looks like now. And I was talking a lot about that we are in the text era. So this is what we've got. This is state-of-the-art Khan Academy Khanmigo tutor. Anyone heard about this? Okay, some people. It's absolutely great. So basically you can ask it. I'm explaining this as the voice is not playing. So basically, instead of asking the ready question, you can ask for suggestions, how to solve a particular math equation. And this Khanmigo gives you suggestions like, what should we do? How to find x in this equation? Okay, if you can find out x, like how to solve it, how you can play with this. And to comparison, there is a movie like, what would ChatGPT give? Ready answer. So we don't want a ready answer. That's what I'm really afraid in education, that if the kids tend to go to ready answers, it would be extremely difficult for them to actually study in the long term. I mean, I'm not against calculators or using ChatGPT, I'm a big proponent of it. But the problem is, if we always tend to believe this, you guys are all adults, so you know that if you look for answers in ChatGPT, you then test them, you make sure that they are right. So this is the state of the art. There is good TED with Salman Khan telling about this. Other thing we co-created is actually security testing. AI is very good in looking for patterns in big sets of data. And normally you would use security for banking, like to detect frauds. If you guys don't go to Zanzibar very often and someone starts to make lots of transactions from Zanzibar, your bank would probably halt your account and say, are you sure it is actually the user or is the account stolen? So this is pretty normal, and no analyst can actually take such a big data amount. So we started to do the same, but at the level of production of the app. So basically imagine we're programming an app, but before it goes to the Google Store or Apple Store, it would actually check all the libraries, whether in other apps it crashed for some reason. And this is pretty good because most of the libraries we use, especially in Flutter that is made by Google, it's pretty well documented. The libraries are pretty good documented. We know which of them are obsolete, and the program, the Copilot, knows which ones are actually implemented in our program. So it's pretty effective. The last one I want to show as a case study is this green part is pretty important. So we call this solution a recommender. The problem with e-learning is usually there is a teacher that sets lots of exercises, and then how you actually know which of them are actually effective? Well, you know after you tested up or you completed all the exercises. The thing is that you know it only after you completed all the exercises. So for AI, it's pretty easy to do this reverse engineering. So knowing what exercises you are using out of, in our case, HP5 technology, we know that using this type of tasks to this particular matter, we have some predictions that normally the completion rate of this type of exercise would be 45%. Would you like to change it to some other exercise? And we train this with, well, lots of university students. It works somehow. So it's, I think, a future of it, and we have more ideas how to actually make e-learning better, and I will tell this to you just later. Okay, so as I said, in AI, it's worth to remember because most of the companies have been very successful to it, but actually, to be successful, you need to go to the graveyard of failures. I spoke about this many times, that actually in research, and the same in business, it is actually stepping from one failure to another and not giving up on the way. And I failed a lot, both in AI and in business. Speaking about business, we work also with the big companies, which is, to my surprise, they are much more saving on the investment to AI. So we work with Inoji that is called EO now, Biedronka, that most of the Polish people know it is Jerónimo Martins in Portugal, and the company that produces yogurt, and that's called Danone. And what we did was basically Biedronka identified the problem that if the refrigerator fails, all the food is corrupted. Basically, you cannot sell it, but if you sell it, well, that's even worse, because people get poisoned, and then you get sued. So it is a big problem. So you need to check the refrigerators twice a day. It is an obligation. In some countries, it's even obligation by law to do it at least twice a day or more often. Have you ever been to the toilet in like a petrol station? Any of you guys? So you see that the people sign every half an hour that's been checked. And whenever I see the really messy toilet, I think, no one was during half an hour. So once I witnessed this situation that a guy came and did like 10 signatures at the same time. So now let's go back to the refrigerators. So do you think that Biedronka or other shop guys, they don't do somehow others than checking it twice a day or more? Because it was all done in paper. So, surprise, it happened that after 2 days it was discovered that the refrigerator has not been working for 2 days. Too bad. So how to make it fairly easy? Just use some AI, which is in this case fairly easy. All the working refrigerators, they have an indication of the numbers that about the temperature and the state, etc. So just make a guy, instead of signing, to put a cell phone and show the numbers to the cell phone. You have geolocation, so you know the tag, you know which shop it is, you know how many refrigerators they are located, so it is fairly easy to do. And we have 100% security that actually someone is checking it because it is all sent to server, otherwise you get a warning. So I said it was super easy thing to do. It costed very little money and it saved probably some of the serious situation in Biedronka. Pretty same case for digital matters in Inoji now E.ON, that, well, back in the days, I'm not sure how it is now, but back in the days there was a guy who came to your office and to your house and he would write down what are the numbers on the digital matter. But you know, there was a thing called COVID, so this guy couldn't come so often, but you could ask clients to do the same.
You can start.
But, well, it very often looked like this.
Copilot to summarize all your recent...
In Poland, there is a standard of certified 40 digital matters. So this was, again, I would call more of a failure. And the project was halted because it was not only readable for machines, but very often these digital matters were hidden under some, spider webs. And it was difficult to see them with a human eye.
For example, say I'm a sales
about digital machine recognition. So we're coming to the point how to do this digital transition, how to actually implement it in your company. That is not so obvious what to start. That's probably, some of you may ask yourself, how to start this digital transition? How to actually make it happen? So many people would start to do some training and actually start to understand the digital science. Or when we see, it is fairly easy to play with ChatGPT, which is a great start, but how it actually fits our needs. So I would suggest these 3 steps that we also do with companies like Danone. So first, let's find what are the business needs. You know, to learn how to do AI is fairly easy. You may learn it over a couple of years, sometimes a couple of weeks you can learn prompt engineering, but the business need, it takes at least a decade to truly understand, to be a good business analyst, to understand what are the business needs. It's much harder to understand how to make a big, mature company like Danone to be better. Not to play with some silly thing like, okay, let's find a new brand or for yogurt or new taste thanks to AI-generated thing, but something that is truly a breakthrough. Second thing would be an internal training, so
for example,
kind of
say I'm a
meeting technology and business needs, and only then looking for tools and roadmap for this AI change. And from my experience, very often people start with the third step. So they are somehow fascinated with some tools and they try to implement it to their company. That is an issue. So basically, what I see also doing lots of this analysis to my clients, that nowadays, using all this ChatGPT, Tab9, GitHub Copilot, very oftentimes you can solve the problem on the spot. So actually this is a great power for a person that is implementing this technology, that you can solve this problem on the spot during the analysis without any data science. You have tools for it now. So I think this is the biggest breakthrough, and I'm pretty sure that the era of big custom software development is going to an end quite soon. So I told you I had a dream to scale up Escola as a company that would provide lots of research, and it is luckily, thanks to what happened with ChatGPT revolution, ChatGPT era, it became quite popular. If you notice, the total for years 2020-2022 was about 6.7 million. Now only this 2023, we delivered projects, proposal for almost 12 million. And this is, what are we working on now in this year? What we are trying to achieve? So we had some experience with children with autism spectrum. So how about not only detecting them, but also suggesting a therapy? So if you use ChatGPT for a therapy, which I'm sure anyone who is psychologist or into pedagogy have tried, they're pretty effective. But there is one issue. They're totally mixing different methodologies. They would use behavioral psychology, cognitive psychology, they would use Montessori, Reggio Emilia, alongside with other theories, because they are so full of wisdom. So they know all the methods by heart, let's say. The thing is, we need to direct, if you want to use only certain methods, we need to use so-called vector that kind of directs them towards certain knowledge. And I think because I tried to create many of the new large language models, or twist an existing language model, like you can take Llama and twist it to your needs, it's much better to actually use this vector to direct existing model, and it's also much cheaper. So I recommend you to read more about this back at home. If you see the tendencies there, I'm doing this project with guys from Silicon Valley, mostly Berkeley. So this is actually what is now getting really momentum in Silicon Valley. Then the second project is about saving energy. So maybe it looks very complex, but it's actually very simple. Basically, it's about putting the right detectors in the right places. But, okay, let's do it on a very practical example. So probably you guys, I hope you guys, don't eat at night. So you don't need to heat your kitchen between, let's say, 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. And that was exactly this solution is doing. It's basically exclude as part of the house. Same can be in office. that are not used in during certain time, and only reheat it when it's needed. Also, it can turn off certain devices during certain times. But to learn your behavior is extremely difficult. But we also, this is pretty well-known methodology, nothing new, but we not only play with different devices, but also how to place them in the area so people make better behavior around these electronic devices. So that's the second thing. And the third thing we are trying to do, which is totally new and fascinating for me, that all of the mobile phones you have, they have ML kit. Every time if you go for a Google presentation of new phone or Apple, they have these ML processors. So what we are trying to achieve is actually that this thing you have in your pocket would, using by an app, instead of like this written on this picture, you're using this on the big computer and transfers to different users, to the group of users, you would have individual preference based on your behavior, based on what you do, because you have your phone in your pocket. And that's going to be pretty amazing if we actually achieve that, to do machine training of particular machine model on a phone. Okay, and the last example that is very close to my heart is detection emotions. That is not very easy for us to detect emotions of other people. According to different research, we are between 70 and 80% accurate in detecting emotions of other people. So we are not always right, well, I'm not always right what my wife has in mind. I try to use ChatGPT, and it usually says, wash dishes. But it's not easy. So in China, they have these EEG scanners, which is, for me, a little bit distracting. I mean, what can you do if a child lost attention for a bit? But, come on, guys, on a Zoom calls, it is terrible. I mean, we know when the guy is actually scrolling Facebook and you ask the question a second time, and he says, can you repeat the question, sorry? So it's pretty common. And the same applies to the lectures we give online or when you do e-learning course. So we applied for this grant to actually detect every frame, like every 3 or 5 seconds, to detect the frame of what are our emotions during the period we are learning. To detect what are our emotions, where we are sad, where we are bored. There are 7, 8 basic emotions that all humans have. And according to current research, between 70 and 90% is the result of the machines reading our emotions. So now, based on our gestures, our mimic, we actually have a similar percentage of success rate of reading emotions in humans, even using regular camera in your notebook. This is amazing for me. The smallest frame we can do is 320 by 320. So we can still detect some emotions. So the last question is, what will be the future of AI? And, you know, my problem, my personal problem and suffering is that most of the best AI researchers sit in TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram and make your attention and my attention to be sticking to these phones. The success of TikTok is mainly the usage of the heavy machine learning, I would say, to detect which of the short movies they use, they actually get our attention. My bright future of it, that it will eventually kill ourselves, because when you have influencers, their only job is actually to show their butt from the funny angle, or their boobs. It's so easy to AI generate it, that finally the people who actually do only this to become influencers are going to be overtaken by AI. So whenever they say, World Economic Forum in Davos, they say, oh, some jobs will be lost to AI, I really do hope that some influencers will be lost to this type of AI machine learners. But what I'm coming to as a conclusion is, it depends on us what the data scientists of today are doing. If they do, you know, TikTok, how to stick our attention, how to do silly things, or we do some educational stuff, some smart stuff that will make our education better, that will make us to save energy, and all depends on us. Thank you, guys. And I also have a QR code that directs to the book we've written, and you can buy it. It's actually divided to 8 parts about, how to use AI in sales, how to use AI in management, how to use AI in education. So it's a very practical book. I'm not telling you how to do linear regression. You can read it in other great books. But how to actually, and the book is in Polish and called Wydajniej. The QR code is terrible. I tried to AI generate it, and trust me, AI is terrible for QR codes. Thank you once again.